Emerging from the dense primeval woodlands of the Chiltern Hills is an exiled nobleman descended from the Kingdom of Wessex's royal lineage. Bearing arms and accompanied by a large number of loyal followers, the nobleman marches through the last line of trees and pauses atop the crest of a hill, which overlooks a quaint smoky village. Beyond the thatched huts and crackling hearths is the home of Wessex's power, where seated at a round table surrounded by many tankards of ale and sizzling red meats is Cadwalla, the current ruling king. Rumours of the present leader abdicating his throne in the near future to live a holistic lifestyle urges the nobleman to make a claim for himself in spectacular fashion and prove his military might to the subjects of Wessex. Before descending the hill, the nobleman requests a horse be brought before him and rides forth towards the horizon at great speed with his newly formed army. As his soldiers follow suit behind him, the air around them erupts into chants of their leader's name and the man they believe will bring their kingdom to greatness. The quiet hum in the air of the Chiltern Hills is replaced with cries of the name Cadwalla, Wessex's all-powerful king in waiting. Blessed by the Bishop Wilfrid of Northumbria, a holy man with a known presence about the southern land, Cadwalla launches a ferocious assault on the border villages of Wessex's neighbouring kingdom of Sussex. The South Saxons, astonished by the arrival of an army not bound by the kingship of Wessex, are massacred in the weathered wooden homes where they sleep and out in the fields as they flee the erupting fires in their land. A counter-army hastily thrown together under the order of Sussex's King Exiled rapidly rides northbound to face the soldiers of Cadwalla's brutal invasion. Converging at a location in the South Downs, Exiled and Cadwalla clash but a few miles inland from Sussex's coast, where the green and pleasant fields of modern-day Hampshire are dyed red with the blood and entrails of many fallen men. Hundreds upon hundreds of West and South Saxons are slashed down and hacked apart during the unforgiving brutality of this slugfest of a battle. The army of Cadwalla eventually emerged the stronger side, and the Sussex defence lines are broken before their complete shattering. With his defences decimated and army dwindling in size, Exiled and his closest soldiers are surrounded by Cadwalla, whereby the Sussex ruler is brought down at the hands of the invading nobleman. With the dispatching of the Sussex king, Cadwalla gathers the victorious troops from the first battle and pushes further into the now vulnerable southern kingdom. For a time, the armies of Wessex ravage idle hamlets, villages and townships, slaughtering the inhabitants and setting ablaze the surrounding fertile fields. Readying themselves and their people for another assault in deepest Sussex are two ealdormen sworn in as joint replacement kings of Exiled, known by the names of Bertun and Andun. Despite the precarious situation of their scorched and harried kingdom, the two kings managed through toil and might to raise another army against Cadwalla and stop the invasion force dead in its tracks. Another major clash between the kingdoms sees the army of Wessex outmanoeuvred and pushed back to the fringes of the South Saxon lands. Returning back to his homeland with far less power in his grasp, Cadwalla fears this failed conquering will vanquish his ambitions to claim the Wessex throne. However, as he makes his retreat, little does he know the current ruling king of Wessex's abdication would come sooner than anticipated. Driven away from the reins of power to follow a path of spirituality, Cadwalla renounces his kingship to lead a monastic lifestyle a few months following Cadwalla's failed invasion. According to Aldhelm, Bishop of Sherborne, writing in the early 700s for the Carmina Ecclesiastica, Cadwalla gave up his riches and the reins of government and left his own kingdom in the name of Christ. The might and strength of Cadwalla's show of force in Sussex, still fresh in the minds of Wessex's ealdormen, places the young exile as the choice for Cadwalla's replacement, and in late 685 Cadwalla officially becomes the new king of Wessex. With the bulk of the West Saxon forces on command and vast amounts of wealth and resources at his disposal, Cadwalla dispatches of Wessex's underkings, who were the temporary rulers in the weeks following Kentwine's abdication. Next, the young king forces an alliance with Sigahet of Essex, a joint ruler of the Eastern Kingdom, and is granted access to more troops, weaponry and crop yields. Over the following weeks, Cadwalla amasses together another invasion force and assaults the already ravaged lands of Sussex once again. This time, with the combination of Wessex and Essex troops, the kingdom is plundered at even greater levels than before, and the joint ruling kings of Burton and Andon are slain attempting to withstand the Wessex conqueror. As Sussex falls into Cadwalla's hands, the young king is joined by his brother Mull in early 686 to begin a joint attack on Kent, the neighbouring kingdom to Sussex selected as the next target on the warpath. The two brothers with their combined forces along with those gifted from Essex begin their devastating assaults on their new campaign. As was the case with Sussex, large swathes of Kentish land are decimated before the defending forces riding under King Eadric confront the invading forces. A brief description given by William of Malmesbury from his works entitled Chronicle of the Kings of England sets the scene. Cadwalla's hatred and hostility towards the South Saxons were inextinguishable, and he totally destroyed Eadric, the successor of Athelweal, who opposed him with renovated boldness. He also gained repeated victories over the people of Kent. Now with both Sussex and Kent at his mercy, Cadwalla leaves the newly conquered realm under the kingship of his brother Mull, and for the time being returns to his Wessex homeland. One year on from Kent's conquering, the people of the southeastern kingdom, in defiance of Mull, stage a massive revolt, pushing the war-torn land into a new state of anarchy. As the towns and villages erupt into violence, the new ruling order begins to crack and eventually fall apart entirely. The occupier king and a dozen of his men are chased into a church where they are burned alive and left charred in the ruined building. News of his brother's murder reaches Cadwalla within a few days, and the King of Wessex, distraught and gripped by fury, plans to unleash an attack so devastating as to completely decimate the local population. In the state of mind that simply occupying local people is no longer the answer, Cadwalla gathers his armies and marches on Kent once more, this time with the intention to commit genocide and replace the original inhabitants with his own people. Upon their arrival, Cadwalla's armies begin the systematic mass murder of the people in the southeastern kingdom. Entire towns and villages see their populations reduced to near zero under a wave of unparalleled brutality thus far. Any remaining revolts and uprisings in Kent are swiftly crushed, and many thousands of people lie slaughtered across the landscape. Sussex, Kent and Essex, all in some way under the influence of Cadwalla's rule, places the formerly exiled nobleman condemned to a life in the woodlands as the most powerful of Saxon kings. Not so many months on from the harrying of Kent, Cadwalla embarks on his final known campaign, which sees his gaze avert to the still unconquered Isle of Wight, the last of the Pagan kingdoms. Like the Kent campaign, Cadwalla believes that the population must be totally destroyed and replaced with his own people. Near the end of the year 687, the Wessex forces are led across the 2-mile stretch of water separating the Isle from the Sussex coast. With the trusted Bishop Wilfred at his side, Cadwalla promises a quarter of the island's land to his close friend should he succeed in its conquering and subjugation. While little is recorded of the invasion and attempted genocide, the ruling pagan king of the Isle of Wight, Arvold, and his armies are annihilated in battle, and huge numbers of the population are massacred. Included in this are the fallen king's sons, who were granted a conversion to Christianity before their execution. In the years following the events on the Isle of Wight, St. Bede the Venerable notes that Cadwalla's attempt at genocide ultimately led to a failure, as the population was to remain largely Jutish in origin some generations on. Jutish being the name given to a distinct tribal group from the other peoples of pre-unified England, labelled under the broader term of Anglo-Saxons. During the battles for the Isle of Wight, Cadwalla is believed to have sustained mortal injuries whilst fighting Arvold's forces, and in spite of his victory finally leaves his warring days behind him. Upon his return to Wessex, like Kentwine before him, the conquering king relinquishes his kingship and soon thereafter embarks on a pilgrimage to the Christian city of Rome. Born as a pagan and converting to Christianity in his youth, Cadwalla still remains unbaptized at the point of his departure. In the book The Ecclesiastical History of the English People, it is noted that Cadwalla wished to obtain the particular privilege of receiving the cleansing of baptism at the shrine of the Blessed Apostles. A slight disagreement of dates between the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle and the aforementioned text places Cadwalla's death at around the 20th of April 689, just days after receiving his baptism from Pope Sergius I. On the news of his passing, the following year sees political turmoil and instability ensue in Wessex, where the void of this war-waging and all-powerful Bretwalda seeks to be filled.